Hey, this is Don Lewis with Gordon and the Whale, and my review this week is of the movie Stolen. Stolen is a kind of film noir mystery movie directed by Anders Anderson. It's his first movie, and it's a pretty good independent film. I was actually surprised. It does drag a little bit in the middle, which is surprising because it's a pretty compelling mystery story. But overall, I was really impressed with the film. It stars John Hamm as a police sergeant who can't find his son. His son's been missing for 8 years, and he can't let it go, and it's obviously having an effect on him and his work, so he jogs a lot. John Hamm likes to run in this movie a lot. Likes to jog to clear his mind and try and figure out what happened to his son. Even though the writing is on the wall, his son hasn't been seen for 8 years. Not looking good. So soon they uncover a body of a young boy, and he gets really excited, but it turns out it's not his son. It was a little boy that was killed in the 50s, a kid with some mental problems and stuff like that. So John Hamm starts trying to find out who this kid is. And through this, the film goes into a flashback to the 1950s. In this flashback, we meet Josh Lucas, who's the father of 3 boys whose mother has recently killed herself, and he's traveling to try and find work. So these stories kind of parallel one another, and you can kind of guess what happens in parallel stories. A lot of the same things start happening. Josh Lucas ends up losing his son, and John Hamm figures out that it's not his son, and it might be Josh Lucas's kid, and so forth like that. Not nearly as confusing as I'm making it sound. The film also stars James Vanderbeek. I found it ironic that James Vanderbeek and John Hamm are in this film, since those are 2 actors that are going to be typecast for the rest of their lives and probably never, ever be able to be in a movie again where they don't think that they're their TV character. John Hamm is known as Don Draper. James Vanderbeek is known as Dawson. I wonder if James Vanderbeek pulled John Hamm aside and said, "Look, dude, you're never going to work again in this town. Everybody's going to think you're Don Draper from here on out." But I got to say, I actually am a fan of James Vanderbeek. I think the guy gets a lot of undue negativity thrown his way. It's not his fault he doesn't age. Why is it James Vanderbeek's fault that he doesn't age and he still looks exactly like Dawson? It's not his fault. And it's also not John Hamm's fault that he is Don Draper. But in this movie, they're separate people, and there's a lot of depth and intrigue to these characters and to this movie. As a film noir fan, a classic film noir fan, there's a lot of homages that the director, Anders Anderson, threw in here. Fritz Lang's M comes to mind. There was also some stuff that reminded me of The Postman Always Rings Twice, which has been remade a bunch of times. So it's a smart movie in that sense. Like I said, it does drag a little bit. It gets a little bit slow. We kind of lose John Hamm in the middle of the movie and start focusing more on the Josh Lucas story in the 50s. And to be honest with you, the John Hamm modern day story isn't all that interesting. I think we've seen it before where a guy loses his kid and kind of goes crazy trying to find him. So they're smart to abandon that early on. I mean, it definitely cuts back and forth effectively, but the Josh Lucas story in the 50s is much more intriguing as he travels. He drops his 3 sons off at a relative's house, and the relatives will only take 2 because the youngest son is mentally disabled. So that's kind of an interesting take because, back in the 50s, mentally disabled kids were kind of frowned upon. So he's kind of saddled with this kid, and then the kid goes missing, and, he tears him up inside, but you're kind of secretly thinking, like, maybe you're better off without that kid. He's kind of holding you back a little bit, which is a messed up thing to think. But I think it's, part of the movie. And I think I think that was a good point to make in the movie because he definitely misses his son. And it drives him kind of crazy, which obviously ties into the John Hamm character. John Hamm's character is obsessed with this older convict who he thinks killed his son. I guess the guy confessed to one kidnapping over the years. So John Hamm's character thinks that this is the guy that kidnapped his son. Turns out it's played by James Vanderbeek in really bad old man makeup. James Vanderbeek in old man makeup looks like James Vanderbeek has been laying out in the sun too long or got caught in a tanning booth. They should have spent less money on casting this movie and less money on making it a period piece and more money on old man makeup. Because as much as I like James Vanderbeek, the old man makeup was not very well done. I can't say there's a lot of exciting scenes in this movie. It's kind of a slow burn, kind of like a classic noir. Once you get to the point where you figure out who did what and why, there's kind of like a little light bulb goes on. But other than that, there's no real big, exciting moments. John Hamm is very good in this movie. It's not going to get a lot of play. It's a very small independent film. It's available on video on demand and on DVD. I recommend it. I think you should check it out. It's not going to blow your doors off, but it's interesting. And as a father myself, I don't think I can watch any more movies where someone's kid goes missing. I'm sorry, Rotten Tomatoes. It's taken it out of me. Anytime a character that's as likable as John Hamm is hurting or sad, you just want him to feel better. It's like, come on, man, just feel better. And he's kind of a dark character and kind of a dark guy, and in this movie especially, but you just feel bad for him. And overall, I would say Stolen is a movie worth renting and checking out, but it's really depressing. it's going to bring you down. There's no happy endings here. But other than that, Stolen was a good film. I recommend it if you're a fan of film noir. Recommend it if you like John Hamm. Who doesn't like James Vanderbeek? Come on, give the Beak a chance. And Josh Lucas, I should mention Josh Lucas is also great. That guy's a really solid actor who just doesn't get a lot of the big roles that other guys do. So I'm giving Stolen a good, 4 stars, saying check it out.